state main stuff, and then Andrea or Kim does meetings with marijuana advisory, and Andrea does the.
$68. I'm not a happy person.
No.
This isn't too. Ready to speak time.
Doing.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Board of Health meeting Tuesday, May 8th, 2018, 6 o'clock. We are in the Board of Health office. First of all, on the agenda, I want to welcome Kathleen Walker as our newest member to the board. Welcome back. Kathleen spent how many years on the board, many years ago?
On the Board of Selectmen, 12 years.
And-
And on the Board of Health in Burlington, Massachusetts, 9 years.
Okay, I thought you were on the board here too.
No, I tried, but I lost the election.
Oh, okay, well, now's your chance.
You had to bring it up, right?
So, no.
Still hurts.
Ted,
No, I
okay.
lost it years ago to Nelson.
Okay, yeah, well, anyway, welcome aboard. Anything you want to say?
I'm delighted to be here. I've always wanted to be on the Board of Health. I think it's the most important board in the town. I think it's got the most power, the most authority, the most ability to create change. And so I think it's a great opportunity for me to be here. I have 8 grandchildren, and I like to protect the environment and protect their health.
Especially if they're in town, right?
Yep, well,
Good.
4 of them are, yeah.
Well, you are. Well, good. Anyway, glad to have you on board. It's nice to have your expertise with Board of Selectmen background as well, so we know some of the policies and the thinking of the Board of Selectmen, although I realize it's a different board. Is that it? Jim, do you have anything
No,
else?
just, welcome. We've already, she came in the other day, she's already signed up and sworn
So
in.
happy,
And she's
I
got-
already had my name tag.
And business
Tag,
cards.
You guys are
Board.
so organized.
Hey,
This is great.
Jim will take care of you. Jim does a great job.
And I felt very welcomed.
Yes,
Well,
well, you are.
We all serve at the will of the board, or the work is for the board.
And the residents.
And
Yeah.
the residents here for that purpose, and public health, safety, and the environment, and we stand by that. No matter who it is, it's what it is, and we do what we have to do. We do it in a timely and professional manner, so. See that,
Correct. And we're getting
continue to
better
do
all,
that.
getting better all the time, especially with Jim and the assistants that are here, taking care of all the day-to-day business. It's certainly very well run, very well organized, so.
It's a team effort.
Next up is minutes. Previous meeting minutes I did not see here.
I think she did email them to you, but
Okay.
are they in there to be signed?
I didn't see it in here to be signed and not in the agenda, although it's possible it's in this last folder.
Yes, it could be.
Not seeing it. The only reason why I bring it up is because I just want to get in the habit of, when we come in, if we can just review and sign the previous minutes, so then we can get them
I
posted.
believe she did forward it to get response back from you as the
Okay.
chair, and
Alright.
from, we didn't get you because you weren't in the last one, but we do forward to all the members to take a look at it, to make sure they're okay with it. That
Yeah.
way they don't have to sit here, and read their minutes.
Correct.
Ahead of time, so I'll find out where they are. She probably, no one probably got back to her, so she didn't correct it for approval, so.
Do you want me to email Andrea and ask her?
No, I don't know why. I can email her right now if you want.
No, that's fine, I'm just on your list.
They should be, you know what, I guarantee they're in there. He's very good about it.
Um,
Sure.
The next question would be, if they are forwarded to me by email and I approve them, send back an email response and say they're good to go, do you want, what does she do, just sign okay?
No, she'll put them there for you to sign. If you're not okay with them, because once they're done and put out and signed, that they're official copy, and they're put in the book.
Yep, okay. Correspondence, signing warrants, nothing along those. Jim, do you have anything else that needs to be signed?
No, and I will send her a quick text after to find out where they are, so I can just print them out. No, I'm just, when I do my report, I can talk about, I did visit the landfill today with the DEP.
If you want to go ahead, just keep on going with that then.
We did, this morning I met, Jim McQuaid called me last Thursday, and requested an on-site visit with Gary Magnuson, who works for us for CMG, who does our landfill monitoring. Requested an on-site visit, so we met with DEP representatives today. Greg Root was there, along with Jim McQuaid and another gentleman who's going to be overseeing, just came from CMG. We'll be looking at, we did a walkthrough of both the old landfill and the capped landfill. And their primary visit today was the old landfill to see what can be done about closure, how big it was. You know, it's been pretty inert since the 70s. Nothing has been there. They surprised that it was, the condition was very good. The new landfill had no issues with the capped landfill. It looks great. The issues were that we're going to have to continue with monitoring and get it out of the 21E and back into the area that would be oversight for the landfill for closure.
And what's the time frame for that?
That's of the old, right?
Yeah, the old.
Okay.
We're still going to do the monitoring for the capital
Oh, yes.
for many years. But the status is, we did have some contamination of 1,4-dioxane. There's been 3 tests of the 3 homes and been no detection, so they're going to be reduced as far as testing there. And we did have some detections in the landfill. They have some recommendations with our welds. They're too high and they have to be capped and locked, and they weren't, most of them. So Gary's going to take care of that. Robin Craver was on scene with us today. To make a recommendation. Robin's looking into see if we can actually make that a parking lot.
Wow.
And
Because that
that's-
would be effectively the same as capping?
Yes, it'd be like a brownfield where it'd be, you'd still put a cap and juice, but once
Yeah.
you blacktop it, it could be used. Like a lot of people would use it for, they would put solar array field, solar farms on there. I think we tried that before and it wasn't permissible. It was something about the slopes of our landfill were too big. And this one's not capped, so you weren't able to do it. But now if you put the parking lot in the overflow from Bay Path, students or wherever would have additional parking on that road, so.
So the pavement would last, what, 20 years or so? So it would have to be potentially redone, but it's just another barrier, if you will.
Another barrier, but the problem is the trash goes actually under the road.
Under the road
Flint
itself?
Road.
Okay.
Yeah, which is already covered, paved.
Yeah.
So you'd have to come up with some kind of plan. That's something that we walked through today, and that the DEP did just send me an email, which I will forward to the board, about giving some direction about what we need to do, and we'll keep you informed. I did go before FinCom to request additional monies, and Robin's working on that, because right now our landfill account is empty.
So the DEP could come back with any recommendation. They could give us a pretty tight time frame and say, go start
Yeah.
the study and get the
The monitoring is going to continue, post-closure monitoring.
Right, well, sure, but.
It's gonna happen, but the thing is, what are we gonna do with the old landfill? And that's the question, is will they allow us to do what we wanna do to make that a parking lot? I think if we do things right, yes, we can. It's really not that big when you think about it, it's small in
5 acres?
nature. Yeah, it's about 5, and the other one's 10, so this one's smaller. But there are issues with some of the grading would have to be evened out a little bit. There's some big growth of trees that would have to be taken out. They don't want those big trees in there, so we'll have to do some clearing. And we also have to work on getting someone to mow the landfill soon, so
The cap landfill.
the cap landfill.
Yeah. Okay. I know when we spoke last about the landfill and cutting it, we needed money before we could put it out for bid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
do we have that?
Not officially yet, but yes, we will be getting the money. We really don't have a choice with that.
Is that
Had to go-
after the town meeting? Would that be when it would be
It'd have to be
appropriated?
appropriated at the town meeting, but I
Okay.
think Rob in the meantime we don't want to be in any kind of violation, so whatever Gary needs to do, Gary's continuing
Right.
to do that, and the bill's being forwarded to
Right.
Robin's office.
But also for the cutting of the grass on the landfill?
Yeah, and that's something we can wait anyway for a little bit until we
Right.
get proper funding, and then once the town approves the funding, it's something that's gonna have to happen every year for a while. The monitoring is you're gonna have to continue to monitor for a long time, just like the landfill in Southbridge. They're gonna have to monitor that thing for the next 30 years, 40, 50, whatever it takes until there's really no detections.
Does putting a cap and/or the asphalt barrier over the top, does that extend or modify the time frame at all? in any
It would
way?
just increase the time frame of closure, where they could take away and say that it's officially closed and properly capped. There's not gonna be runoff, there's not gonna be any water entering into it, there's gonna be stormwater collection of that, you know, it's actually better for the environment, and it's a lot quicker to do it that way. Whether we come to some conclusion, Robert and I were at the DEP with ExxonMobil just at 2 o'clock today for a meeting about contamination issues, and when we're gonna start with the pump station on 169, so we can get the residents the water, which is happening quickly, so.
So what's the word on that? You and I were at the meeting last week, I believe.
Last week, yep.
Yeah.
Well, they're all, Maura Johnson was there, Scott Wyborough from ExxonMobil, Elizabeth Sinkovich, and some representatives, Mark Bally from DEP, Robin and myself. And they did state that they're stepping up the process of getting the pump station in on 169. Although they don't need the pump station to really do the water line for the school, but it's to pressurize the tank. And also for the water line for the H-foot road, Berry Corner Road, Eleanor Lane issue, they need the pump station. So that'll be happening. We're also gonna have a pump for Bay Path, and as you know, they're gonna have a pump for Overlook. The key is to get Overlook users to get the draw on that water, the straw that keeps that water moving to
They're at
get
the
the water
tail end.
quality.
They're at the very tail end
Yep.
of the,
They'll be the ones that will actually be the biggest users.
oh yeah, I'm sure.
Is it the pump station that's closing things, that's slowing things down?
I wouldn't say, no.
It has
I
slowed
think-
things down, so
I
it's
think
supposed to
The town was supposed to
have it done last.
have it done, but there was some difficulties in obtaining the property. And then they had to have it made, specially made, so the fabrication of it is there. That'll be done,
Several months. I
yeah,
think.
and they'll get that, they're prioritizing it along with the DEP to say, let's get the 169 pump station online so we can continue forward with the other project from Southbridge from landfill to get that water line done. So they're gonna concentrate on 169 area, and that pump station, and even the other pump stations, you need to get those in first, and they're gonna start laying some pipes, so they're doing it in series.
I
They
heard
gave the
today it was-
timeline.
it wasn't gonna be done until September.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's just the fabrication, the delivery, all that, so they did give a timeline, which I left at the DEP with Mark Ball because they didn't have a copy. I think they passed it out last week
Right.
at the citizens that trying to meet all those
It's in
timelines.
different phases too. It talks about the
Yes.
school phase, they've got Sonic Home.
I guess Mark Baldy's question to ExxonMobil was, are you in violation of the ACO? The ACO has no timeline with ExxonMobil, it only has goals. So there was really no time set on there, so they're not in violation. There was no time frame set for this A, B, and C. So they're not in violation of the ACO.
Was the lack of actual timeline an issue on anybody's part, or?
No, I think it's just, a project of this magnitude and then getting the land and the property for the pump station was an issue of delay. And then just getting the design plan, getting someone to do the work. They rarely said, why can't you have a bunch of groups working in different areas? Well, you need traffic control, police officers, there's a lot of logistics involved, so they really can't do that. They may be able to work in a couple of areas, but they're not gonna be working in, 5 different areas to try and, they need to stay away from the school area, and that's, some of the water commissioner was there, was concerned that you're gonna close down Mugget Hill. We have trouble getting out of here now when we leave from work. It's quite a wait.
Right,
It's just a lot of traffic.
yes.
If we're gonna slow it down, you have buses coming from all the schools, they're all in that end of town.
So along those same lines, the folks that are here from H-foot Road, Berry Corner Road, I don't know if anybody's here from Eleanor Lane, have they been advised of the latest timeframe for when the
Well,
water will actually?
some of them did go to the meeting the other day, but the time frame is extended, they're gonna start. I will see if I can get a copy and get it to John, maybe you can put it on Cleanwell's timeline.
Yep.
I'll send it over to him. I'm not sure, everything has its own time frame. They've set goals and objectives, and time frames on that, so I do have a copy, another copy here in the office, but I'll scan it and send it over to John, he can post it on Cleanwell's.
Now, the folks that have signed up, is that pretty much the end of the folks who have signed up to have their well decommissioned and have a water line? I know there
Yes.
were still some.
That timeframe ended, there's 88 properties, but some of them signed up, and they've sold their house since. So we're working with a family right now that have recently purchased a home on Eleanor Lane, and now it's different. So we'll just send the paperwork to Cassandra, change the name, have him re-sign it, and he's gonna send it in. That's it.
Now, a question for John Jordan, are there some folks who are still adamant and saying, no, I'm not gonna,
Just the ones I heard initially, that I think the Scott Farm was the only one really.
okay.
The Scott Farm?
Initially, from what I heard, he didn't want to connect, but
I
he's,
thought, yeah, because I volunteered down there, and I thought that they had already agreed.
he may have, but last I heard, it was a no with the horses and everything else, and I don't know if he's changed his mind, he might have.
You know how long ago that was?
For me?
No, that you heard it?
For me, when I heard it, yeah, over 6 months.
Okay, so I think he's changed his mind.
Good,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
good.
was this the couple?
His daughter has a piece of property.
In front, yeah,
In the
she's
front,
still-
so
All
I
right,
think he's
so
changed.
it's not her parents then who
Oh,
are
it's
here?
Jack, it's
Jack,
Jack.
it's Jack
Yeah.
Scott, who owns the property, and
And
his
they
daughter is
board
still-
horses?
No.
No, okay, I've got it mixed up, forget it.
A different property.
All right,
There's a lot of
People who board
up there.
horses
Yes,
will
I'm
be,
sure.
they changed their mind, they will be tying it.
right, okay, that's what I just wanted to square away.
I think our meeting today at the DP went well. We were just making them aware that Gould and Cemetery Road does have detections,
Right,
and
when was the last testing of that?
it's going to be another test tomorrow, I guess. The last date I have, the sample, they don't put the date, it was 9/21, 2/21/18.
Okay, pretty recent.
Yep. And they're all different dates, 4/19/18, 2/20/18, so they schedule different ones. But there are some detections. There's a family, they're on bottled water. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people on bottled water, and there's 2 people with POET systems.
Where does this go from here?
Well, that's why we met with DEP to let them know that we're aware of the situation. We need further testing. They're saying that it's something to do with the Coptic Church tanks. Well, I said to them, I really don't care, but the DEP needs to mandate that we do some testing then and find out, because it seems to be consistent of the contamination that's been throughout, especially on Stafford Street. That's where the end of it is, so that's where.
Right, so
we're talking
somebody's
about.
suggesting that it's coming from the former church?
Um,
Or the current church? is it?
They've made that assessment that they need to get in there to do some testing, because
Okay.
they've had tanks that were removed in 1989. They would have had to do testing upon removal, fire department mandates that you do soil testing.
Okay,
When you remove a tank, before you go to mass tank in Chicopee, you have to sign off on it that the soil that it was taken from is clean, tested.
and was that done?
I don't think Charlton did it.
Okay,
I'm not sure, I still have to speak to the fire department.
so then they would, I would assume somebody would go out and test a certain,
They need access to the property, and that's what they're looking for. DEP has said to make 3 attempts, and then they would step in to send them a letter that they need to test.
okay.
No.
At whose expense?
That would be at ExxonMobil's expense.
Okay, good. Good, so, all right.
So it's not going, we just, Robin and I, our meeting was, we're aware of this, we're concerned. Where does this go? We want to make sure the DEP's on top of it. We don't want to let it go by. They haven't even put pipes in the ground yet. It's the time to fight for water is now, whether we can get it or not. It's looking like they're saying it's not quite possible, but they're saying they're testing at the request of the DEP, and they did it on their own at some point, but it'll continue to be tested, and they're gonna look further into it, so.
Testing for that particular part of town has happened for about a year or a little more?
It's been for a year, yeah.
Okay, so a year, and in that time, I don't expect you to pretend you're Gary Magnuson, but is there a trend upwards in the contamination?
It's up and down a little bit, and that's what we talked about today. There's no trend where you saw it gradually going up, there's, like there's an aquifer or spill. It's pretty consistent as far as what's there. That's why they're thinking they can test that. Forensic Environmental would like to get on that property and test, and have more of a definitive idea of where it's from and whose gasoline it is.
Right,
So, but they can't, they're not allowed on the property, and they won't return. They won't return the phone call, so.
How far is the church away from, say, the furthest property on Greenwood Road? Do you know, roughly half a mile, a mile?
I'm not sure, we did look at the map today, but I'd be guessing, but they, once they followed the 500-foot rule, once they had a hit, they provided bottled water. Once it went over the 32 mark, then they provided the CBOH system. And they're right now pretty close to Jones Road, and that's something we looked at, whether they were getting closer to that area, but they're not there. The testing is pretty consistently low in most of the houses. They are providing water. It does not exceed 70, which is the potable standards. But there's some as high as 49, I believe.
So the folks who are getting tested are okay with that? I mean, as far as...
To be honest, yes, but when people call this office because they want to buy a home, they're asking if there's any contamination issues. I certainly want to be able to provide them, yes, they're currently either on bottled water or on a filtration system, because when they have contamination of arsenic or something, we give them a deed restriction through the Board of Health. They have to have it registered. So when they sell the house, it's mandatory that they maintain that system.
Right.
Now, if you have contamination of MTBE or TAME and you sell the house, I don't really have control of that. Neither does the board, because
Unless somebody were to call into you.
someone were to call and ask, I wouldn't know. So that's an issue. And like we talked about today, when you put a well in, you drill a well for quantity. That's how much water, and whether it's enough water to have your house. You need the quantity. And then you put your septic in, you perk in your septic, and you build your house. And then, once that's done, then you test the water for quality, and then you put the filtration system in, if there's an issue. So it's at the end that you determine the quality of the water.
Are there people who would call you and say, hey, I'm from out of town, and I'm just checking to see if there's
Yeah.
issues?
Yeah,
Okay.
we get them all the time.
Okay.
And we're seriously trying to get a spreadsheet together, so it's easier for the girls anyway, answer the phone, just go to the spreadsheet, look at the address. Yes, there is.
But if somebody came in and let's say, it's 5 houses down from the nearest contamination, is the Board of Health?
We would- I know
For
you're
full
getting-
disclosure, should you say, hey, there's some contamination?
There
down the
is
street?
contamination in the area, but currently there's no contamination or testing going on at that property.
Okay, right, which
And that's
sounds
the
like a good
truth.
answer. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Some people aren't happy about it, and they'll complain that they lost a sale. Well, I don't care, it's the truth.
Yeah,
If you're a realtor and you're worried that, we told the truth to someone who's trying to buy a property, that's not my problem.
right.
No, we're not gonna lie to people. We're gonna give them the honest truth of what we have for information.
Okay. All right. So H-Foot Road, Berry Corner Road, Eleanor Lane, Wells, folks are here from that area. Anything new on your end?
I just have a question about the phasing that you just mentioned, that you left at the DEP.
Yep.
Has that changed from, is it still expected to finish this year with the pump house at the same time?
The pump house is a priority right now,
Mhm.
and that's the thing they're concentrating on. It's supposed to be delivered, and that's something they're gonna be working on. The contract's been awarded, and it's gonna be put in.
Mhm.
I believe they said RH White, but I could be wrong. That is going to be doing it. So,
And when I talked to the DEP, saying why do we have to wait for the pump house to be finished before they come back in the spring and connect our properties to the water main, she said it should all happen this year.
I
Has
think
that changed?
I think that's what the goal is.
All this year, so, okay,
That's the goal.
okay. I'll email you tomorrow and
You know,
ask for the form.
And I do have the timeline with that, so, on it, so.
Okay.
And the DEP didn't have a copy of it, so I left it with Mark Baldy, so hopefully I can find the other copy that's in the office.
Okay,
So
thank
if not,
you.
I can just get it from Moore Johnson.
Thank you.
Any other issue? Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, last water test that we had, the guys complained that there was sediment in the water again, and they mandated before, because they had this issue, they put in another filtration system, a big filter for it, so I said, I don't know, I'll check it. when I took it apart, it was plugged full with stuff, inside out. I'm thinking stuff got through. It, I don't know, maybe it flushed, whatever it did when they were taking the test, but those filters, I had one replacement, obviously I replaced it. I kept it because I thought the guys were gonna come back or something to find out what's going on. Never heard back from them, so I ended up getting rid of it. But I have the replacement in there, and it only took a couple of months. And I told them that they wanted this filter in there. So if they wanna put it in, they have to, I'm not gonna pay for these filters to be constantly changed. So where I'm using the one last one, somebody's gotta get a hold of them and say, hey, I got the replacement in there, and if it only lasts a month or two, I need some more.
And you could be without water.
Was it from turbidity?
What's
This
that?
gentleman on H. Road.
Yes.
Yeah, H. Road.
Okay,
These are the whitings.
okay.
Yeah, it's just a sediment filter.
Yeah.
Because they were having problems, they were getting sediment in some of the samples before. And it's kind of strange because I got a sediment filter, and then it goes through a softener system, then it goes into the Poet system, but they were getting it. So we put it in, and then the last test, they said, geez, we got a lot of sediment in our system. And I said, well, when I have a chance, I'll take a look. And we were noticing that pressure was going down in the house. So when I pulled it out, it was full of sediment. Dumped the thing out, everything, and put the new filter in. But like I said, I don't know if it's been 3 months or what it was when they put it in, but, you know, like I told them when they were putting it in, they wanted to put it in to the system. It doesn't help me, it helps them with doing their testing and stuff. I said, I'm not gonna, you know, if I gotta change the filter, I'll change the filter, but I'm not gonna be bearing the brunt of the cost of these filters. And they're like, well, they might only be like 20 or 25 bucks. And I said, it doesn't matter. You know, is it gonna last a year? Is it gonna last a week? I don't know, but the point is that it looks like with the sediment that I'm getting into the system, I'm gonna be replacing this often to keep this from happening, so I need,
I'll make a phone call tomorrow and,
yeah, I need a replacement, because if I gotta replace this thing in another, you know, month or two or whatever, I mean, once it clogs up, and if they come and take a test again and they got sediment,
And they're okay with you changing the filter
that's-
it's just a sediment filter, yeah, I
Right,
said I would do it,
right.
it has nothing to do with the Poet
This is the
system, it's
first thing.
before it comes
Right,
in.
yeah.
It's to trap it, because if they were getting it
Correct.
through the system, and they changed all the, you know, and like I said, I don't know, maybe it flushed through, maybe when they put it together, the filter, but supposedly, like every filter, everything goes through the filter and then up the middle into it, but the middle, you can see was all brown, so, you know, I don't know if it worked its way through or if it was getting around, but top and bottom of the filter, it was brown everywhere. It was, the whole, probably a quarter of the can was full of sediment that I had to dump and clean out, so there was a lot in there.
I will certainly check. Have you had any odor issues? Your
Last night, I don't know when it was, woke up in the middle of the night, windows were open, and just about made you puke. It was bad, the worst I've ever
So you
smelled.
didn't call, did you?
I didn't call, and she didn't wake up, and I knew if she did, oh, you would've heard it. You would've heard it.
I did, one of your neighbors did call, he wasn't happy, so he called me with the outcome of the assessment when the person got there, so.
I don't know what time it was, but at 4:30 or 5 o'clock when the alarm went off, the smell was gone. But I gotta say, it was probably, I'm guessing maybe 1 in the morning. I woke up, and I woke up from the smell. It was bad, really,
They are working
really
on that
bad.
side, they're working on that slope, so.
Do they come out anytime, day or night?
Yes.
They do. Somebody's on call?
Yep.
That's good.
Call the odor hotline,
Sometimes depending on-
Nicole Crocho, if she's on, will respond and we'll get it the next morning.
And it wasn't like an odor, that type odor that we usually smell. I can't say exactly, but it was really, really strong.
John, did you have anything? I thought I said anything.
I just know that they're not doing the cap yet, because they're in the review period right now.
Yeah, Tracy.
They're doing the wellheads though. I
Doing the
think,
wellheads,
The gas
yeah.
wellheads, yeah.
Because there's plenty of trucks still going up there.
Yeah, Tracy said they were, I think last week she sent out the email saying they were gonna be working on
It wasn't over, so.
And they are expected to stop taking trash late this year, is that I mean, I know it's.
Or December, I believe, but I'm not sure
All right, just
if
curious.
the time frame is gonna change at all.
Okay. Anything
But I
else?
drive around up there, there's certainly trucks still going in there, so.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
When the neighbor complained they took a ride, but, you know, by the time I found out about it, it was hours and hours later, you know.
Yes,
They did issue the 6-month letter for taking their last loads in April.
So
So
that would
that's
say
like October.
Yeah.
yeah. Wow,
From October, anywhere between from October probably to December, somewhere in there.
okay,
It's not by October, it's
You're right.
at least 6 months from
okay.
October.
That would make sense then. Anything else from your neighborhood, the wells? No? Okay. Jim, nothing else from you on that?
No, I just, their neighbor called me with a concern and I followed through on it, took a ride, and even spoke with the person that went there. And, you know,
About the odor?
she's an hour, by the time she gets there, it's an hour later,
Wow.
so.
And this was during the night? She had to come out?
I think it was in the morning.
Okay.
No, it was actually night, 'cause she had to come from Wales. So it's about an hour by the time she gets the call and the activator and she has to get in the vehicle and drive. So, it takes a while.
Nothing else from you? Okay. We discussed water line construction. Wanted to leave private well regulations on here for the ongoing business. Are we all set?
We're all set with that, we just wanna make sure that ExxonMobil, I've already had a copy notarized that you signed, and that's what is the issue. They will be using neat cement from top to bottom on all their well decommissioning,
Okay.
so there's no issue there.
So they were okay with our board when we came up with the revised and final version?
Yeah, I'm gonna send it to them, if there's any concerns, I told them they need to bring them up so we can bring them before the board, and maybe the board would choose to make some adjustments, but they usually need cement from top to bottom, but you made a couple changes to the top to cover with
Yeah,
that 4-inch layer,
correct.
and they didn't know about that, so I'm gonna send it to them. So, there will be a lot of well decommissioning going on probably the next few years, so.
Yeah. So this can probably be taken off then? from-
If it's choose, yeah,
Yeah,
if I
just-
think that ExxonMobil, Kleinfeld or ExxonMobil needs something looked at, or.
We can bring it back
We
up.
can bring it back
Okay.
up.
I just
I'll
wanted
let
to be
you know.
sure everybody was set with it and there was no issue, so either you can have Andrea remove it or when she.
I'll have her
contacts-
remove it, she
Okay.
takes care of that, yeah.
Okay,
Andrew, we can remove it.
yeah, she has no problem with that,
No.
okay. We'll move on then to marijuana regulations, anything new on that?
We will be having a meeting coming up, we have a meeting posted, we're gonna do a tour of the facility.
The one down here at
One
2031?
down, no, we're gonna go to the one in, I believe it's,
Oh, one that's in operation.
the one that's in operation,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
The board chose to do that, and the regulations are now final, they're out, and I'll inform the board after our next meeting. You
Okay.
can see the building is going up.
Yeah.
There's 2 more applicants that have applied. You can't just give one out, you have to give 2.
So
or
who are
a
the
maximum
others?
of 3.
Do we know?
I'm not sure. I think Charlton Orchards is one, and there's another one that I'm not aware of right now.
Okay, just curious.
That's
Applications
fine.
for,
For a marijuana facility, growing and,
you
so,
can't just have one?
no. Once you adopted that, you had to have, you can't have one because of the competitive, that's something that the selectmen approved
Right.
through an agreement. As far as our committee is, we're there to make sure that the board has drafted stricter regulations in
Right.
time, so we have control of their license. If any way, shape, or form they don't cooperate, then the board has authority to take the license away. Yeah,
Or
I'm not-
shut them down until they.
Until they can comply,
Okay.
basically. I would report that they're not in compliance to the board, that have shut them down, and they have to come before the board to reopen.
Okay. Much
They're not
like
even open yet,
a
so-
restaurant or whatever.
Yes.
Is there any upward limit of how many marijuana dispensaries you can have?
That would be for the selectmen to decide.
I thought they were talking figures like 3
I think the planning board was talking 3 of the selectmen, but I can't speak for that.
Yeah, I'm just-
I heard
I
3.
thought I heard 3.
I heard 3, but,
They-
3?
so,
They decided that there would be 3,
the planning,
plus the medical. That-
well, the
that's-
medical automatically becomes recreational. It's
Right.
after April 1st. I think after it becomes legal, then it's automatically you can do recreational and, but there's some people that want to actually do growing also. So that's a whole different issue.
And was that discussed in our regulations? No, this was just retail sales.
Retail sales, we don't really have anything to do with it's agricultural.
Right, right.
It's not deemed agricultural because if it's a marijuana plant, they've taken the agricultural bit out of there.
Okay,
There's a legal zoning issue that was with that, but they had an issue that the town's attorney took care of through zoning, and now it's through planning that before it would come to us, so,
so we wouldn't necessarily be dealing with
No.
growing. Okay.
no.
Can I just ask why you need 3 or more? I mean, it seems
I-
bizarre to me, and I know that there's a lot of people in town that are upset about it, 1.
Yep.
So I can't imagine.
I,
How they
I'm
gonna
not
deal
sure
with
of the whole thing, it's something to do with the law that you can't just have one competitive, I guess, competition, I don't know. But the town, when you accepted the host agreement, I believe they already set the limit at a certain amount, the selectmen, that was done a while ago.
It's also for availability, I think. I remember reading a while ago about, I think this was in Auburn, they were upset with a bar, and they repeatedly warned this person, you're not open enough hours during the week.
Yeah, you're supposed to remain
You
open.
have to be open, and they violated it several times, and they either pulled it or they pulled it temporarily for their liquor license.
You're supposed to remain open in operation.
Right, yeah.
To
That
keep
was
your
interesting.
license.
Yes.
To keep your license, and that it's, because otherwise you could have, let's say, 10 liquor licenses in town, and, you know, everybody decides to go fishing on a Saturday, and
Right.
people in town can't get their liquor.
They
I'm
close.
assuming it's the same with marijuana, I don't know.
I'm not sure, it's a new thing, but certainly